Why students forget and what you can do about it. This is a very interesting topic and also very important, especially for educators, teachers, and also lifelong learners. Hi, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and hello everyone. My name is Karim. In this video, I would like to talk about this topic: learning that sticks, tricks of the trade. Well, it's not really a bag of tricks, but a handful of ways based on extensive research on how and what make learning stick. Actually, I came across this article on my Twitter stream. I love my Twitter because I follow the right people and I always get the best tweet from those people I follow. So this article actually caught my attention. So I read the whole article, and there's another article referred by this in this article to another article that focused on the concept of the forgetting curve. So it sounds very interesting. Let's have a brief look on what is the forgetting curve and how does it relate to making learning stick. Well, in the 1880s, a psychologist by the name Hermann Ebbinghaus, he pioneered a landmark research in the field of retention and learning. He observed what he called the forgetting curve, which is a measure of how much we forget over time. Well, in his experiments, he discovered that without any reinforcement or connections to the prior knowledge, information is quickly forgotten. Roughly 56% in 1 hour, 66% after 1 day, and 75% after 6 days. So that's quite significant and quite substantial. So the question is, how or what can be done to preserve the hard work of teaching or learning? How do we or our students as learners able to retain the information as long as possible? Well, in this area of science of learning, extensive research has been going on in the last few decades, and now with the advancement of technology and neuroscience, we now understand more about how the brain works in terms of learning. On this website, MIT News, you can read this. You can Google the title here. I'll give the link down below the video. So on this article, MIT neuroscientists have discovered a novel mechanism that contributes to the strengthening of these so-called neuron connections, and this is called synapses. MIT neuroscientists led by Richard Cho explained the mechanisms for synaptic strengthening in this article. When the brain forms memories or learns a new task, it encodes the new information by tuning connections between neurons. So when neurons are frequently fired, this happens when someone is thinking or learning something new. So the neuron will be fired, and when this happens, the synaptic connections are strengthened. The opposite is true for neurons that are rarely fired or seldom fired. So this happens when the person not learning something new. So this what the neuroscientists call as a synaptic plasticity, and this probably explains why some memories persist while others slowly fade away. So when students learn a new piece of information, they make new synaptic connections. So in order to retain learning, the aim is to make as many connections as possible, typically by connecting to other concepts, and this process would widen the spider web of neural connections. So from one synaptic connections, will become more and more, and will become like a spider web or a network of neural connection. And this, the effect is to retain what has been learned. And also another way of how this spider web of neural connection can be formed is by accessing the memory repeatedly over time. And this basically, reading it or learning the same thing over a period of time. So with this understanding of the neuro, we call it neuro learning, or the science of learning behind this, the following learning strategies, 4 learning strategies has been recommended to make learning stick. The first one is so-called peer-to-peer explanations. So in this strategy, when students explain what they have learned to their peers, the fading memories are reactivated, strengthened, and also consolidated. This strategy not only increases retention but also encourages active learning. The next strategy is what called the spacing effect. So in this strategy, instead of covering a topic and then moving on, the teacher can get the students to revisit key ideas or key concepts throughout the learning period, for example, throughout the semester or throughout the school year. And research has shown that students perform better academically when given multiple opportunities to review the learned materials at a periodical period, from, let's say, after 3 weeks, then the teacher revisit the same material again, and maybe explain it in different way or giving a different problems to solve, and so on. So for example, teachers can quickly incorporate a brief review of what was covered several weeks earlier into ongoing or current lessons, or use homework to re-expose students to previous concepts. So that's a spacing effect. The third strategy is what the scientists call interleave concepts. In this concept, or in this strategy, instead of grouping similar problems together, we mix them up. So solving problems involve identifying the correct strategy to use and then executing the strategy. When similar problems are grouped together, students don't have to think about what strategies to use. They automatically apply the same solution over and over. So interleaving actually would force the students to think on their own, on their feet, and encodes learning more deeply. Last but not least, the strategy of combining the text with images. For example, as you see in the slide here, because it is often easier to remember information that's been presented in different ways, especially for visual learners, especially if in this case, the visual aids can help organize information more clearly. For example, by let's say, in learning history, subject of history, by pairing a list of countries, for example, occupied by the, let's say, German force during the World War II, then we have we pair it with a map of German military expansion. So by pairing these two things, it can reinforce that lesson. It's easier to remember what's been read and seen instead of just either one alone. So there is to it. Maybe we can try out these strategies, whether you are a teacher or whether you are a learner. Any combination of these strategies probably you will start to feel how it impact on your learning and how it can actually make your learning stick for a longer time. So I hope you will find this video useful for you. If you like the video, maybe you want to give some feedback on the content here. So thank you for listening.